Hello everyone, Shu here. Happy 4th of July. So if you're in the US, we're celebrating Independence Day today, and I just been thinking about freedom. Um, and often when we hear the word freedom, we think about liberty, where we think about being unbound. We think about having no restraints, and I want you, as I'm even saying these words, I want you to think about what comes to your mind when you think about the word freedom or when you hear about the word freedom. And taking it not just from a global sense or a larger sense, like freedom for country, freedom, for a specific race and all of that. But I want you to think about even freedom narrow down. So go from that big, arching freedom for all to bring it down to freedom in your own life. And ask yourself, when you think about freedom in your own life, what does that look like? Um, that lot of time I have the privilege to work with people, to meet people, to sit down and have consultations with people who are seeking freedom in one way or another. Freedom from emotional toils, freedom from stress of life, and freedom from relationships issue, freedom from the constraints of a unfulfilling job, and it keeps um, it keeps reinforcing this belief that I have that freedom is not free. Freedom comes at a cost. And when I think of my own life and I think about the people that I'm privileged and honored um, to interact with, those of us who achieved a level of freedom at one point or another, or maybe a small segment, or small portion of our life, even, all of us can attest to this, that we had to pay a price in order to get that freedom. Um, those of us who are entrepreneurs, we know that it's not easy. You are putting in probably more hours than anybody else realize, as you're starting and building your business, and as you're trying to set the foundation for it. And eventually the goal usually so that you have more freedom of time later. But from the get-go, in the beginning, you're putting in so much more, and you're giving away that maybe the stability and the security you had in a quote unquote regular job. And even for people who might be working and running a business, like, you give up some of your free time to make those dreams a reality, to be able to make you give up a lot without realizing it, to have the life that you want, the life that you feel that you're called to live. And I just want you to ponder on that. People died, people gave their lives so that we can have freedom. What are you giving away so that you can have freedom in your own life, your individual life? Sometimes we say, I want more time, but then we're holding on to everything that suck our time, right? And sometimes we say we want more income, and then we're holding on to everything, to that income so tightly. And at the end of the day, even for all of us, that freedom that you're craving, whether it's freedom of time, freedom of expression, whether it's freedom of just enjoying your life and having living your dreams, whatever that freedom looks like for you, what will it take for you to reach that point? What do you need to give up in order to reach that point? Yeah, it's not free. Freedom comes at a cost. So I encourage you, just ponder on that. Think on that a little bit today. And yes, be grateful for the people who sacrifice so much for you to have the freedom and liberty that we have in this country in one way or another. But I also want you to think about what you must give up in order to have the freedom to live in the way that you think you should live. And for those of us in the Christian faith, I'm grateful that Jesus paid it all so that I can be free from my sin and free from you know um, honestly the toys of this earth, and knowing that I have, there's always something better and greater because I'm in his hand. But again, it wasn't free. Why? It said Jesus, no, God so loved the world that he gave. there is something, the price to pay. There is, something to be given, whether, in your own personal life, maybe it's giving up, Netflix and scrolling up, scrolling for Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and actually use that time more wisely into what you are wanting to do or what you feel you're called to do. Many times we say, often I hear people say, well, I want to do this, but I don't have time. I'm like, well, the other people on this earth, others who are doing X, Y, and Z, whatever it is that, you are trying to achieve, there are, look at those people who are doing that. I don't think they have more hours in a day than you do. Right? We make the time for the things that matter to us. If something's really important to you, you will find time. So it's not that we don't have time, is are you making the time? Again, are you making that sacrifice in order for you to have the time to create the reality that you want to see? And speaking of reality, I was telling a client yesterday, we were talking about disappointment, and and then I was telling her how disappointment is just a gap between our expectation and our reality. So when you're seeking a freedom, when you're looking for an ideal life, or the life that you're dreaming of, whether it's how you, again, it's how you spend your time, who you're interacting with, how you're serving others, that's your expectation. Like, this is what life should be, this is how I should spend my time, this is how I should carry myself, whatever the expectation is. And then it's usually up here, right? Something that we are pursuing, something that we are looking forward to. And then you have your reality, sometimes that often is down here. And then the gap between these two, between your expectation and reality, that's often the disappointment. That's where disappointment comes in. But also, you can also use that gap as a trajectory. This is where I want to be. This is where I am. What must I give up in order to get closer to here? What must I do in order to get closer to here? Instead of letting this gap here, just wallowing in disappointment, all the things that, oh my goodness, it's so hard. Oh my goodness, I know it takes so much time. Oh my goodness, it's going to take so much money. Well, if you think about it, again, there's a price to pay, there's a cost in order to live the life that you want, in order to be all that you created to be. There's a price to pay. Sometimes you're paying sweat equity, sometimes you're paying cash, sometimes you're paying time, sometimes it's wasted time. And you're like, oh my goodness, I wasted how many years of my life, waiting for the perfect time to do X, Y, and Z. And you realize there's no perfect time. This is the perfect time. You take the moment and you make it perfect. You seize every opportunity to be all that you were created to be. But you have to be willing. You have to be willing to change that gap, from just a place of disappointment to, kind of creating that staircase that helps you get closer and closer and closer to your expectation. So I hope this encourages you to think again more and deeper about what must you give up in order to have the life that you desire. All right, friends. Happy 4th of July.